Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the PSBlue Podcast. This is episode 16. As always, I'm joined by my cousin and co-host, Vinny. How are we doing today?
Anthony, I'm doing just peachy. I'm doing very well, man. How about yourself? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm playing some good games. I got Demon Souls cooking right now. I got some other... What else am I playing? Some other fun ones. We'll talk about it later in the episode. What have you been playing, Vinny? Anything we need to know about?
I have like a perfect balance right now with games. I feel like I always find myself in situations where I can play two games at the same time that perfectly can coexist. It's like a very special feeling. And I have the luxury of having two special games. And it's the same games from last week. So the first one, I've been playing Inscription. And when I beat this game, we're going to have a spoiler cast about it because I'm not going to have any spoilers here, but oh my gosh, it is so good. It is right up my alley. I'm loving it's taking a turn that I never thought it would. And it's just very creative and very unsettling to play. I think that's probably the best word to describe it. It's just really good. It's really good. Alongside that, I should say, I've been playing The Last of Us Part 1 still, and I'm loving it. I really am. I'm enjoying it. The one thing that I will say, just to bounce off of what we had talked about last week, I think the one thing that's standing out to me the most now that I'm about 10 hours into it, the sound design. I think this is the first time that I've personally genuinely experienced the 3D audio on the PlayStation 5 now that I got a new pair of headphones. I got a new pair of headphones for the PS5, it's just crazy, dude, because particularly with The Last of Us, I get goosebumps down my back, literally, it feels like when you're getting chased by obviously the monsters and the infected. Dude, it's crazy. You feel like they're right behind you. It is really crazy, the sound design with the 3D audio. This is the first game, like I said, that I've experienced it, and I could see why Sony has been touting this feature. It really added a lot to this experience. So both of the games I'm playing are amazing, dude. So I'm in a very happy place right now.
Yeah, I mean, I have Pulse 3Ds, but I haven't used them in a really long time. I bought them pretty much when I first got my PlayStation, but I've been meaning to, set it up and give that 3D audio another spin. I'm very excited for this episode of the PSBlue Podcast. So without further ado, here is the quote of the week. And Vinny, congratulations. It's your honor. Last week, you said, in regards to the Days Gone movie, quote, "We know what this movie is gonna be. I hate to be that guy. I have no interest at all. This movie is gonna be a wet fart at the box office. This thing is gonna stink." End quote. Vinny, defend yourself. Do you have any other new ideas about the Days Gone movie?
Nah, I do have a way with words, don't I? This movie is... I have zero interest. We talked about it last week. You said it perfectly last week. We should have given quote of the week to you because you put it perfectly that the worst part of Days Gone was the story. Why are they making a movie out of this stinking game? It stinks, man. And we know it's going to be a wet fart at the box office. This thing ain't nobody going to go see this movie. Watch, we're 3 years down the line. This is going to end up blowing up like a Top Gun Maverick. It's going to pass Titanic in sales at the box office.
Anyway, our first topic today is Assassin's Creed Mirage. Finally, a trailer for the new Assassin's Creed game came out, and it was all CGI cinematic, but it's a trailer nonetheless. So, Vinny, talk to me about the new Assassin's Creed game and your expectations for this one.
Sure, man. There's a few things that stood out to me, shockingly, about an Assassin's Creed announcement. It's another Assassin's Creed game. It's going back to its roots. We hear that a lot when we're on the 10th, 15th game in these sequels. I hear that all the time with Call of Duty, going back to the roots, There were a few things that stood out to me, though, with this announcement. The first, and my most exciting aspect to me is this game's not going to be 150 hours long. They were out front adamant about that. Thank you, Ubisoft. Thank you. For me personally, dude, we've talked about it on this podcast. I don't have the time to play video games as much as I used to. What they said was this game would be in the range of 15 to 20 hours. That is awesome. I am so excited about that. I think that is, I'm ecstatic about that. And also, on top of that, they're only charging $50. They're not charging the $70 premium as a result of, less content, so to speak. I'm excited that it's probably going to be more dense than, the most recent Assassin's Creeds, Valhalla and things like that. I know you really liked one of the more recent ones. That was which one was the one that you really enjoyed? I know it was
Valhalla. I loved Valhalla.
It was Valhalla.
I loved it so much that I went back and I played Odyssey and Origins.
Well, interesting that you say that. So we may be split on this a little bit, because Valhalla to me was really good. The problem was it was just too much. I just didn't have the time to pour into that size of an RPG at the time, and I still don't. So maybe I'm speaking on maybe a little bit of a smaller audience here for people like myself that just don't have the time for these Assassin's Creed games that just transformed into these massive epics, games. But music to my ears, 15 to 20 hours. Don't overstay your welcome. Dense, rich world. I'm excited to play this. I'm gonna pick this game up. It's coming out soon. One little negative thing that I actually saw online, people complaining about when this was announced, and I fully 100% agree. I don't like it when video games are announced and all we have is a CGI trailer and they're up for pre-order. Like, you could pay for the game now. Like, how am I going to give... I'm going to give Ubisoft $50 without seeing any gameplay. I know that's me nitpicking, and maybe it's personal preference. I just don't like it when developers do that. Like, give us some gameplay if you're going to put a game up for pre-order. Like, we'd like to see the game in action. That's just me personally, but I know a lot of developers do that. It's just something that irks me. So I don't encourage people to pre-order games in general, but it's just a practice that I'm not a huge fan of. But I'm excited, man. I'm really excited. It looks like you said it's going back to Assassin's Creed 1, 2. I was getting, Assassin's Creed 1 and 2 vibes. I'm not going to go too much into the characters or anything like that. I'm not too big into the Assassin's Creed lore, but this looks really good, man. What about you? Are you excited about this?
I agree with you. I mean, I wish I could see some gameplay, because I just can't answer that question until I've seen gameplay. I mean, it's great. It's great that we get the look into the game and there's an announcement of sorts, and they're starting to make a media presence, making that felt, but it's nothing more than acknowledgement that Assassin's Creed is coming. That's really all it boils down to. You can get all the bells and whistles, the CGI, the this and that, but until I see gameplay, I can't give you my gut check on Assassin's Creed Mirage, because I haven't seen Assassin's Creed Mirage. I've seen a story trailer for it. And the story in Assassin's Creed is extremely convoluted. The best part about the Assassin's Creed storylines is when they just completely abandon the Atlas and let the characters in the world flourish. So I don't know, man. I really wish we saw gameplay. So I can't tell you what my gut check is on Mirage. Long story short.
I don't think you put it well, man. There's not too much else to say about the game itself. Like you said, it's hard to get a lot from a CGI trailer. Not to go too off topic here, but CGI trailers to me, I used to like them when I was younger, to see like certain characters and things like that. But now that I'm older, there's no substance to these things. The trailer's cool, but I have no, I maybe I'm alone here, but I don't really like CGI trailers at all, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you here. It's fine. It's, games used to not have the same graphical fidelity that they have now. So a CG trailer was a huge deal because it sort of let you into that world, but it's just not like that anymore. So, it is what it is. I can't wait to see gameplay for Mirage. I will probably pick it up, unless it's a completely different game than what we've seen in the past. But moving on to our next topic. So, Vinny, you brought this article to me, And I hope I'm paraphrasing here, but I hope I'm doing it justice. So it pretty much makes it seem as though Xbox and Microsoft and also Sony and PlayStation have had conversations about the Call of Duty franchise. No other IP. The Call of Duty alone franchise is so big that they're just talking about this one. It seems like it was some sort of a contract discussion. And on the Xbox side of things, it seems as though Phil Spencer, well, he's making it seem as though Call of Duty will be provided to Sony consoles for 3 years minimum. But according to this article, that was not enough for Jim Ryan and Sony. Excuse me if I'm misconstruing this article, but Vinny, is that not sort of the basis of what we're seeing here with this article?
Yeah. Yeah, you put it perfectly. Basically, Microsoft last week insinuating that they had offered to Sony, being as transparent as possible to them about what they were going to do with Call of Duty, and that they would offer simultaneous releases for Call of Duty games, all unanimous, no sort of exclusive content to Xbox or anything like that for the foreseeable future, as Phil Spencer, insinuated with his comments last week. But yeah, Jim Ryan, it's just interesting that Jim Ryan came out like this. We never see this. It has been a very long time since Microsoft and Sony have traded blows like this publicly in a public forum. We were kind of, and still are to this day, but over the last 5 years in particular, we've seen them playing really nice with each other. My mind goes to, cross-play in particular. I remember that being a real big deal. Sony didn't want to do it at first and kind of, ultimately had to do it, because because Nintendo joined and then, all that mess. But over the last 5 years, there's been this, over the last even 10 years, and, they've been playing very nice with each other. And this is really the first time in forever that I've seen anything like this, where someone as powerful as Jim Ryan, comes out and basically says, this is inadequate. This was an inadequate offer from Phil Spencer. We demand more. For Call of Duty's been on our platforms for 20 plus years. And it's just interesting, man. We talked about this last week, that things are going to get really, really interesting. The more we're going to see things that we just haven't seen in the past. We literally talked about it last week, that over the next year and a half, especially when the deal inevitably goes through, in my opinion, I still think the deal is going to go through. I don't think that there's going to be any sort of monopoly going on here. I'd be very, very surprised if Microsoft's, team of lawyers isn't able to get this through, because it is being under review by regulators actively.
I agree with what you're saying, but I think this conflict has been in the works for a long time. Acquisitions of $1 million companies, they don't happen overnight. So we're sort of just seeing this come to fruition. But what I do agree with you on is the fact that we're seeing that this is something publicly happening, and that's different. Most of these things usually happen behind closed doors. So this is interesting. So, this is something we're going to monitor, and we'll keep our eye on, and we'll, there'll definitely be updates on this topic, because it's something very interesting and different that we haven't seen in a while. You know what else we haven't seen in a while, Vinny? Forspoken. So let's go back to the Forspoken well, because contrary to what we suggested over and over again, they left the mozzarella cheese string graphics in the game. But other than that, Forspoken looks like it's in much better shape. We saw about a little over an hour of new gameplay, and the game, I was at about a 2 for the game after that last trailer. Before I was at like a 9, and then I got super disappointed with that last trailer. Now I'm starting to get my expectations back up for this game, and I gotta say I'm excited. I like the new trailer. I like what's coming up down the pipeline. It seems like this delay is really paying off for Square. So, Vinny, talk to me about Forspoken.
Unlike you, I've been a little bit more consistent with my thoughts about this game, Anthony. Sorry to just throw you out there like that. I've been at a 3 the entire time, and I remain at a 3. This has been a very consistent, rock solid 3 that is not going anywhere until this game comes out and maybe is good. Did you see? Let me ask you this real quick. Did you see when this game was trending? It may have been a few weeks back. The trailer that came out, and everybody was saying it looked like Joss Whedon from the Avengers movies wrote this game because of how cringy the dialogue is, and very Marvel. The story looks terrible. See, that's a problem for me. I feel like a game like this needs a good story, but maybe I'm alone there. I don't know how I feel about this story. That it doesn't. There's nothing that I've seen that I'm intrigued whatsoever, and the writing was very, very, as you said, cringe from what I've seen with this game. The most recent gameplay segments that we've seen do look better than what we saw. What was it? A month back? Maybe 2 months back? I think it was about 2 months back up to this point. And the right move, it looks like, was to delay the game. I think we had said it 2 months back that they needed to delay the game. And they did, inevitably. I think, like, the next week. It was the week after, funny enough. Under our guidance, that's right. The only thing left is to, get rid of this string cheese around the character. But it does look fun. I'm at a 3, man. I'm not getting myself... I'm not going to... I feel like you're building yourself back up for just inevitable disappointment over here, Anthony. I got a bad feeling for you.
Well, I mean, that's all I have for spoken. I guess we're gonna disagree on that, but we'll see. We'll see what happens, and we're gonna review the game. I'm gonna get it day one, so definitely gonna be more where that came from. But that was our last talking point. Without further ado, here is for your consideration my review of Trover Saves the Universe. So Vinny brought me this game from the creative mind of Justin Roiland. And Trover is a game where you control a Cherorpian, which this is going to be a doozy to try and explain this game. So you control a Cherorpian. It's very meta, by the way, which is so on brand with Justin Roiland's humor. But okay, let me reel it in here. Cherorpian. You stay in your chair the entire game with a actual controller in your hands. And the whole game takes place through the lens of this Cherorpian. Now, you control with your Cherorpian's controller. I mean, I know Vinny's looking at me. I keep saying the word Cherorpian. But anyway, so you control Trover with your controller, in-game controller. Again, very meta. And you have this sort of little witty banter going on with Trover, and there's a VR component to it. But the game, I will say this, Vinny, the game made me want to play it in VR. It made me sort of realize what VR is capable of and what VR can do when executed properly. So it's a 3D platformer, but again, VR component, and I really liked it. I think the gameplay was extremely simple, but I think that was done intentionally to bring out sort of the comedic elements. I do want to say that sometimes it did feel rambly or repetitive, but for the most part, this is just it's really, really funny. And again, very, very self-referential, and they talk about being in a video game and we got to save the day and this and that, and they make comments on when you start to collect items and things, but it's a little bit more about the gameplay. It's for all intents and purposes an action, third-person action game, but it has that unique perspective from that point of view of a player within a player sort of thing happening. It's you kind of have to see it to sort of capture what I'm saying. I'm not really explaining it well, but anyway, that's not the meat of the game. The meat of the game is the ridiculous story and the comedy, and again, it's a hell of a funny game. And if you don't like Justin Roiland's humor, you're not going to like this game. It's just not going to be for you. So let me say that up front. But if you do, if you like Rick and Morty, if you like Solar Opposites, this game is more of that same brand, but in a video game form. And there's some creative liberties that he takes due to that medium of a VR video game. Again, I didn't play it in VR, but it had that VR component. I feel myself rambling, and again, I would I would say my biggest criticism of the game is just that. Wow, that was a good transition. Sometimes it gets rambly in and of itself, but at the same token, you kind of want to let the game breathe, because the NPCs will just say ridiculous things to you if you sit there and give them the opportunity to. It's really sort of impressive from a creative and comedic perspective. But Vinny, what made you decide to give me this game? Is it because I like Rick and Morty? Is it because of the like sort of VR component? Like what made this game stick out to you in the wild card genre?
I think me and you share the same sense of humor. So this game, clearly the star is its sense of humor, and the way that it uses a game to tell jokes is awesome. And the jokes are funny. Like, damn near every single one of them will at least make you chuckle. And I think my favorite part about this game, and you mentioned it, was when you're idle and the characters just kind of comment on things that you would expect them to comment on. And they always have something very sharp, clever, thing to say. Like, the writing is so random, you put it perfectly, but it's also really smart in a ridiculous way. And let's just call it what it is. It's the same two voices as Rick and Morty. Justin Roiland uses the exact same two voices. I mean, Rick's voice is probably the voice of like 20 different characters in this game, and it's amazing. And it never becomes a problem. It never gets annoying. It never becomes an issue. It's kind of crazy how he's able to do it, to be honest with you. I think just the writing is so funny. I remember particularly for me, and I don't know if when you first meet the abstainers in the space area or whatever, I don't remember what exactly it was that they said, but if you stand there and just wait for them to start talking, it is honestly some of the funniest dialogue that I've ever heard in a video game. I just think for me, that's really the reason why I recommended it, was because I knew you would at least get a laugh out of this game. Like, I knew it would at least make you laugh. Like, I knew you would at the very least enjoy it. And the game, the gameplay's fine. It's very bare bones, and you're absolutely right, dude. I wouldn't have it any other way either. This isn't the type of game that needs some convoluted, weapon system or anything like that. No, it's very bare bones, and it's so funny. It is just such a funny game.
I would say this game is it's an excuse for more Justin Roiland humor. And that alone gives it probably a 7 for me. You tuck in some pretty basic gameplay. Again, I think it was done intentionally, so the humor could really shine through. But it's entertaining gameplay, and I think the game gets elevated to about an 8. I really enjoyed it. I played it all the way through to the end, if you want to call it an ending. What sort of happens? It was a fun time, and I really appreciate the recommendation, Vinny. So thank you for that. So that's it for this episode of the PSBlue Podcast. So thank you if you made it this far, and until next time, I'm Anthony, and you'll be joined with Vinny we got to find a better way to sign off, Vinny, but we'll see you guys for episode 17 of the PSBlue Podcast. Take care.
All right. Bye, guys.